Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is going to be a top 5. I don't do these very often, but I wanted to do one today. And the topic of discussion, as you sort of might expect if you're watching this live, is Age of Sigmar 2nd Edition, AoS 2. AoS 2, as of the time of this video being released, has just gone on pre-order. So you'll be able to get your hands on the pre-orders for the new edition. Soul Wars, Alliance Sorcery, the General's Handbook, all of that lovely stuff. And hopefully a lot of you have done that because it's looking like a lot of fun. Genuinely, really looking forward to this edition. And I watched the Warhammer Live battle report that was streamed on Twitch. Me and a few friends had a bit of a snark over that and a bit of a discussion about the game. Really good fun. You should try it. So, what I want to do today is talk about my top 5 hopes for the game, because as much as I'm looking forward to the game, there are certain things that I do really want to see. Things that would just take AoS 2 from being a really good new edition to being the best new edition that Age of Sigmar could possibly have. They're a little bit abstract. They're not rules changes, because we've seen those. The core rulebook, the 18 pages, has actually been published on the Age of Sigmar website, I believe. And it's more just things like, well, you'll see in the video. So let me know what you think in the comments below as well, if you're getting into AoS 2 or if you're looking for something that will make you get into AoS 2, whatever it so happens to be. Anyway, I'll stop rambling now and we'll get straight in with the number 5 spot. These are my top 5 hopes for AoS 2. First off, at number 5, it's the tournament scene. I'm not much of a tournaments player, as has been made very, very apparent throughout my time on YouTube. I'm not a tournament gamer, but I'm hoping that AoS 2 brings with it a diverse and interesting and mixed tournament scene, because having seen the results for Heat 3 of the Age of Sigmar GT, which was the last major tournament I believe being played with AoS 1 since the GT's finals are being played with AoS 2, if you look at the top 50, about half of it is taken up by Daughters of Cain, Maggot of Nurgle, Leaders of Nagash, and then a couple of Disciples of Tzeentch that won the whole thing. That's not bad. I mean, there were some really nice mentions in there. So Clan Scry showed up a couple of times. Order Draconis snuck in the top 50. There was some Idonet, there was some Mixed Order, there was some, I think there was some Stormcast, and there was a nice mix of armies in there. But I'm hoping that we get a little bit more diversity, particularly up at the top tables. There is a small amount of concern, at least to my mind, that with the massive boost that summoning is getting, i.e. not costing reinforcement points, some armies that summon might just become too good. Because Tzeentch is going to take some nerfs, we think, which makes Nurgle more powerful, so you need something to keep them in check. Death keeps them in check, what keeps Death in check? Daughters of Cain, if they don't have Nagash, maybe, but what keeps Nagash in check? Well, that's another question. So what I'm hoping is that the tournament meta is diverse. We see a lot of different armies and not just one cookie cutter build for every army. So going back to Death, some armies use Nagash, some don't. Some Nurgle players go mono demons, some can go mortal, some do a mix. Daughters of Cain players can go down the Melisai route, down the actual Witch Elf route, and so on and so forth. The more armies that can be represented and the more builds within those armies that can be represented in the top 25, top 50 of tournaments, then all the better, because that encourages people to experiment, to try new armies out. If you're a new player who's maybe coming over from 40k and is quite a tournament-minded person, you're going to want to see, okay, what are the good armies that I can play, if that's your mindset? Well, if you see 5 to 10 different armies all knocking about for the top spot and sharing the top positions in tournaments, suddenly you've got a lot more options. And if you're someone who's looking to get into the tournament scene, like you're a casual, casual maybe is the wrong word, but if you're someone who doesn't do tournaments and wants to start, well, now you've got more choices. Your army might not be coming top of every tournament. It might only get there once in a blue moon, but it can get there. And it generally is represented in the top bracket. That's what I'm hoping for. That the tournament scene is diverse so that more players can experience what it's like to be in a tournament scene, because their army can stand up to it. It's not about, oh, I've just got the best book, therefore I win, as maybe became the case in 40k from time to time. Where it's just, you have a better book, therefore you win. I'm hoping there's enough books that can compete, particularly as the new armies come out. We'll get to that in a minute. And yeah, that's what I want from the tournament scene. I'm not so fussed about it if it doesn't happen, because as I say, I'm not a tournament player, but I feel it needs mentioning because I know a lot of people who play the game or who watch the channel are tournament people and will care about that sort of thing. So that's my number 5 pick, a diverse tournament scene. Let's get on to number 4. At the number 4 spot, I have encouragement to explore not matched play. Match play is great. You have points, you have balanced enough missions that you can just drop your armies on the board and go. It's how we'll do tournaments, although we'll probably do some variants on them, and great. Match play is great. Match play is necessary for the health of Age of Sigmar. However, there is way more to this game than just matched play. There is open play, which has a lot of game modes now. Subterranean, Sieges, Aerial, Triumph and Treachery, other multiplayer games, what's it called? Gathering of Might, which is basically the Mega Apocalypse version. And there are other game modes besides that I suspect will be added in a General's Handbook or just made up later. Open play has so much to offer, to the point that if you just take points from matched play and put them in open, you can have a heck of a lot of fun, because you're not constricted anymore and you can make fun builds. And there's also narrative play, which is going to be more customizable, it seems, than ever before, with a seeming like a deck or a pile of different modifiers you can add to your games to do some really funky stuff. And then you've got Malign Sorcery, which is an expansion for matched play, but more of the stuff from that book looks to be geared toward open and narrative play. What I want is that whilst we'll still play match play, and we'll probably play it forever because that's the most popular way to play the game, is how tournaments are played, etc, etc. I want open and narrative to not just be a gimmick match you roll out from time to time. They're way more diverse than 40k's open and narrative play, at least on the surface. I'd have to play them, and we can't do that yet. But they look really diverse, they've got loads of fun options, and I want people to explore them, and I want the game to try and encourage people to explore them. They've added a load of game modes, a load of modifiers. You could do some really funky stuff, and I hope the player base takes that encouragement and runs with it. Because while I don't think we'll see open play tournaments, and I don't think we'll see global narrative campaigns played out in that style, I do hope that the other two ways to play are not just gimmicks for filthy casuals, because I don't want that. Match play is important and it needs to be there, but I want the other modes to stand up as well, because the narrative play looks so much fun and I want to play it all. So that's my number 4 spot. It's nice and brief. Encouragement to do something that isn't just matched play. And while we're here, maybe give Skirmish a push as well. Skirmish would be nice. And Path to Glory. Path to Glory looks amazing. So that's my number 4 spot. Let's move on to number 3. At number 3, give us enough lore to work with. You might expect me to put this way higher up the list, but as much as I care about lore, and I do, and I've really come to care about the lore now that we've got the Daughters of Cain, the Idnet Deep Cain, I'm doing a lot more reading around the subject. I don't think that the lore is absolutely fundamental to have like piles and piles and piles and piles of it that you could probably spend a year reading. I don't think the game needs that. What it needs is enough lore to work with. It needs its foundations, and we're getting a lot of that. So we're getting maps for Akshi, Shaiish, Sharmon, Gyrim. I don't believe we're getting them for the other realms, though I'm willing to be proven wrong. And we're getting more lore on all of the realms, all of them. Realm of Chaos and all the other 8 as well, I think. Yeah, I think we're getting some of it. So we're getting more lore. The factions are getting a little bit more flavour to them, hopefully adding on what's in their battle tomes, or just giving them something if they don't have a battle tome already. That's great. That gives you the foundations to play a game. Now, what the edition needs to do from there is make sure those foundations are properly laid out and can be built upon by novels, battle tomes, and narrative campaigns. It needs to be allowed to forge the narrative. I know it's that corny phrase from 40k 6th edition, forge the narrative. AoS 1 didn't do this. AoS 1 had nice bits of flavour text for the factions that it added, and there were some probably very good novels, though I didn't get a chance to read them, but they were isolated incidents. The maps didn't connect. The stories felt cool, but kind of disconnected unless they were part of their own series. So the universe now needs to be put together so that we can build on top of it, create homebrews, forge narrative campaigns without having to go completely off the deep end of crazy. That's what the game needs to be like through this edition. Let the core book build those foundations and let the battle tomes do the rest. Fill out the gaps and make it all work. If we get tons of lore, that's great. But if we don't get enough lore, I'm worried about long-term health, because whilst the game will be great to play, sometimes you just need another push to engage you, to keep you going. Sometimes it can be reading a novel, or hearing about a cool character, or being able to create something, and you just need enough narrative to make that happen. So that's the basic point. Enough lore to keep us going without going over the top and filling in every single blank. And this is a point that somebody raised to me in a comment back when I talked about AoS's lore in the past. Some people seem to think that I meant we need all the lore now. I don't think that. What I think we need is enough lore to get us going and then let us build it. Because that's what 40k does wonderfully. 40k has the galaxy. The galaxy is the way the galaxy is. It looks like this. There's some things here and there. And there are a bunch of races and they live here, 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 here. And do stuff. That's it. You then have battles built on top of that. You have characters built on top of that. And you have loads of scope to do whatever the hell you want. That's what AoS needs to be like. It needs that sandbox feel for its narrative without feeling like that for the game. So, yeah, I know it's a bit much to try and do what 40k does, because 40k has had like 20, 30 years of practice, but something to keep in mind. So that's my number 3 pick. Enough lore to keep us going without giving us every single answer, because, well, we like to create. Number 2, the release schedule. Can we please get this properly fixed? So this was one of my biggest gripes about AoS for the last 2.5 years. The release schedule was a pile of tripe. It was not good enough, let's be frank. And the problem still exists. It's been improved quite a lot this year. We've seen 4 battle tomes: Nurgle, Daughters of Cain, Idennet Deepkin, Legions of Nagash. 4 nice, solid battle tomes. They could do more, and I'll get onto why they could do more in a minute, but I want to run a statistic past you. As of the time of recording, which is before AoS 2 comes out, but after the Imperial Knights have come out, there have been 19 codices for Warhammer 40,000 in the past year. 19. I actually went on Wikipedia and I went on to Games Workshop and I actually counted them up. There's been 19. In the 3 years of AoS 1, and again I went and counted these, there's been 17. Give or take. It might have been, it was 17 or it was 18. Either way, 40k has had more codices in a year than AoS has had in its lifetime. That is not good enough. And if you just want to go off 2018 and say, okay, well, that's a bit harsh because AoS got a really bad start, alright, since the turn of 2018, AoS has had 4. 40k has now had 9. That's a lot. 40k is getting a lot more release, and you might say, oh, well, new edition, of course. But then AoS didn't get this out of the gate. It got shafted out of the gate, and it's never fixed the problem. And the second part of the problem is not just numbers, because a slowish release schedule where you get about an army a month, I could live with that. I mean, that's way more than we were getting in the past. Like, back in the days of monthly White Dwarves and, monthly releases and no Warhammer community, you were lucky to get 2 40k armies in 3 months. So this is still great compared to old GW, but the problem that we're having now is not just the number of releases, which is tolerable, it's the diversity of the releases. The last Destruction book to be released was Beastclaw Raiders. That was over a year ago, or give or take it was a year ago. I don't remember its exact release date, but it was about a year ago because I hadn't come to France at the time. It's been months since Destruction got anything. And before Legions of Nagash, Death didn't get anything for about 2 years. Now, you might say that's because Death got everything in one in Legions of Nagash, but then they're also getting a Nighthorn book straight off the bat. It wasn't good enough. Order has about half, well, maybe not half, it has 2 Dwarves, 2 Elves, Stormcast, Seraphon, Sylvaneth. I'm counting the Stormcast as 1 because, well, it's the only way to be fair because the Extremis one and the original one have been retired. So, 7 of them are Order, and 3 of them are Destruction, 2 of them are Death, and 5 of them are Chaos. Right? And this leads into the other problem about the lore, because whilst enough lore to get us started is great, you need to be able to build on that, and a slow release schedule really, really hinders that. Because if you don't put enough lore out for the factions, then nobody's going to care about those factions. Even if they look cool to play, there's not enough flavour to want to play them, especially if you don't already collect them. So if you get a slow release schedule, There's not enough new lore coming out to build on, to hope to build around, to be fluffy with and create campaigns out of. Never mind the model side of it. We'll put the models aside just for that argument, but there's not enough new lore coming out if it's only being done through occasional Battletome releases, occasional novel releases, and the odd expansion. Expansions can help with the lore thing, but the Battletomes are where it's at. So we need a decent release schedule. I think they need to at least keep one a month. That's the bare minimum. We need at least 10 releases by the end of the year. So Nighthaunt are coming and Stormcast are coming. That's good. Good start after the new edition comes out. But we need to follow that up. We need a Slaanesh release, a Skaven release, the Light Elves release. I'm picking up armies kind of off the top of my head here. And we need at least one Destruction release, preferably 2 or 3, just to start catching them up a bit. That's what we need right now. We need a quick release schedule that at least is one a month for the rest of the year. So one army every month needs to be coming out, ideally, if not faster, because if 40k can get 10 codices, and I know what you're going to say, you might say, well, the reason they could do the 40k releases so fast is because they didn't have to do any new models. Right, fine. Then how many armies actually got new stuff? 1, 2, 3... there might have actually just been 3. But the point stands. Of the armies released this time, oh no, 4, because Demon's got a bunch of stuff for Nurgle alongside Magaken. So yeah, like, 40k could get more out because the books were just books, and it wasn't model making. But still, we need to keep a quick release schedule with AoS, otherwise it's just going to lose the momentum that the new edition is going to give it. It just needs to happen, to my mind, and that's what I'm really hoping for, because it's got all the momentum right now, all the impetus, it needs to keep it. Please, just keep that impetus going. So that is my number 2 pick, but of course there's one more spot, so let's get to that now. And finally, my number 1 hope for Age of Sigmar 2nd edition is just be a good game, please. I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but just be a good game. The problem that some people have with AoS is that they just don't like it. They don't like the setting, they don't like the fact that it came out so badly. The game needs a strong start to 2nd edition, and needs a strong edition in general to bring those people in or bring those people back. It needs to do that. So the game needs to be solidly built, well put together, and fun to play. It needs to be engaging. And if it's well supported with good lore that fits the narrative and fits the game and allows the two to blend together quite nicely, which I feel AoS 2 has been doing, and it's supported by a good release schedule, a diverse tournament meta, and a nice mix of playstyles, that will make it a good addition. Because if the tournament scene sucks, then AoS 2 will get a bad reputation. Maybe unfairly, but it will. That sort of thing does happen. If the tournament scene is utterly toxic, then people will just think the edition was bad, even if it actually wasn't. If the lore releases are too slow, the interest might start to wane. People don't have enough chance to be creative, and all of those things start to fall off again. If the release schedule is slow, there isn't enough reason for people to keep coming back and saying, okay, what is there now? What's this shiny new thing? Oh, now I have something I want to get because an old faction I like for fantasy has been redone, or whatever. And it also means that new people have constantly got something new to look at rather than just being not AoS on the shelf. And if the ways to play are nice and diverse, then you can go play matched if that's your thing and get ready for tournaments, or just play a pseudo-competitive. You can go play narrative, have some real fun there, or go in off the deep end and play open play and do some utterly crazy stuff. This answer is basically me summing up everything in the video that I've said so far. If everything in the video happens, this will also happen. The game just needs to be fun to play, diverse, and interesting and engaging. That's what it needs. If it can do that, it wins. It just needs to be a good game, because as much as people will rag on it because it's Age of Sigmar, if it can stand on its own 2 feet, be a good, solid game that people will play, people will enjoy, people can pick up and enjoy, people come back to and enjoy, and they can go back to over and over again with nice different armies and lore, it will succeed. People will only be able to dunk on it for so long before they just turn into the shrieking minority in the background. If they haven't done so already. I don't think they have quite yet. So that's basically it. If the game is good, then everything else is kind of fades to black. But it needs the things that I've said earlier in the video, to my mind, to become more than just a new edition and become a really good game where it can say, yeah, I'm up to this 40k, come at me. Maybe not quite, but if it can actually be a worthy alternative to 40k, that would be ideal. And if it does the things I've said in the video, I think it can do that, because a diverse tournament scene will help attract the tournament crowd who maybe think 40k might go a bit stale from time to time. If it's got good lore, people who are getting a bit sick of the Primaris Skillerman thing, if that's the problem for them, can come over and explore the new factions here, even if they avoid the Sigmarines. If it's got a nice set of releases with amazing models, because by gum have you seen the new Nighthawks, then again, it just entices people in. That's what AoS 2 needs. Just needs to be a good game and well supported. Does that? I'm happy. I mean, I'm probably going to enjoy it regardless because I like this style of gameplay, but yeah. As an honourable mention, just before we wrap up, I do want to say one more thing. Don't just turn this into a test bed for 40k. You could easily say AoS 1 was just testing ground for 40k 8th edition. You might say that, and you probably have a fair point. I've said it, kind of. And 40k 8th edition, AoS has now borrowed a few things and reworked them for itself. That's good. But I don't want it to just be the case that AoS comes out, and then a couple of years later, 40k releases its new edition, and lo and behold, it's pinched a bunch of stuff from Age of Sigmar. I don't want AoS to just be a testing ground, because testing grounds are... tests are buggy, they're faulty, they make mistakes, and they're fixed by some... and then the final edition, but I don't want that final edition just to be past the 40k. That's what I'm hoping. Just don't turn it into a testing bed for 40k. But that's kind of honourable mention because I sort of trust GW not to do that because they seem to be borrowing from both games, which is great. So that is it. That is my top 5 hopes for Warhammer Age of Sigmar 2nd edition. Nice release schedule, good lore, at least enough of it, nice diverse tournament scene, and enough encouragement to do the other stuff, and most of all, just be a good game. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. What do you think of my list? Would you change the order around? Is something you'd add to it, take out? All of those things, let me know. Be very interested to see what you have to say. And just, yeah, are you looking forward to AoS 2? What's your list? And all of those. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And if you are getting into AoS 2, or you're thinking about getting into AoS, as I've said dozens of times before, there is no better time. Next week, I'm probably going to do a final My Thoughts on AoS 1. I've talked about a few of those things in this video, but I want to give a final summary of the edition before we go headlong with the AoS 2 content here on Tactica Imperialis. So, thank you very much for watching. This has been Tactica Imperialis, and I will see you all very soon. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.